Welcome back. I am Tyler here with my brother Ryan, and today we are doing the Kansas City Chiefs 7-round mock draft review. We did a full 7-round mock draft, all 250-something picks, and so today we're going over the Chiefs selections. We have already done a 3-round mock draft for the Chiefs, and we have other 3-round and 7-round mock drafts planned leading up all the way to the 2024 NFL Draft. And every Monday we have Mock Draft Monday, where Ryan and I both individually release a mock draft for that day. All that being said, to get notified when those videos come out, be sure to ring the bell, and also to help us grow the channel, try and reach our goal, try and get 10,000 as quickly as possible. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and help us reach us out. It's the easiest way. So quickly here, before we get into the slide, we just want to orient you a little bit on kind of what we did. So we want to include some context on what players were available and not available. So we wanted to include before and after, and also some other potential options that we feel that they could take, and just what teams selected them and where they were selected. So Chiefs here, to be honest, just looking at this defense, they have to re-sign a lot of the free agents, like, for example, Chris Jones, which is scary to think, though, about. Like, this defense could even be better next year. And that's the only reason I think really why they won the Super Bowl, because this offense was one of the worst offenses that Patrick Mahomes has been on during his entire career. Yet they were able to figure out a way to win the Super Bowl. So now they come into this draft class with amazing receivers, amazing offensive linemen, and those are their two key needs here. So we've been heavy on they're going to go receiver no matter who. Just the way that the draft's working out, there's going to be a lot of receivers that are going to be available. Even here, you're seeing 3 receivers that were taken in a row. Right before this, there were another 3 receivers taken in a row. So they are in a sweet spot here to go and get a receiver. They could easily go and trade up. I think they have the draft capital for it. They want to go get a guy. Here, we weren't doing trades in the 7-round mock draft, so decided to stay put. Ended up sticking with Keon Coleman as well. Ryan, I think we maybe disagree a little bit on him, but I'm not the biggest fan of Keon Coleman. But what I will give him this is he is something totally opposite of what they have in Kansas City as of right now. He is that deep threat, that jump ball guy. And I could just imagine the two with how Mahomes can move the offense here. I could see him just slinging up some 60-yard bombs to Keon Coleman just 2 or 3 times a game just to keep those safeties back. Then that would open it up for Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce, whoever else that they have on that team.
Yeah, and that to me, I think, is where Keon Coleman is going to find success. He's going to be able to stack DBs and kind of out physical guys at the catch point. And one of the things to me that's most impressive about Keon Coleman, it's not even football related, but he played Michigan State basketball for Tom Izzo before he transferred to Florida State. And to me, I think that just shows how well-rounded of an athlete he is. And I look back on his tape at Florida State, and I actually blame Jordan Travis a lot for, I don't want to say hurting his separation metrics, but there are times where Keon Coleman gets separation. He stacks a DB. He plants his foot and stems off a route, just like textbook. And Jordan Travis just doesn't either see him or misses him or what. And to me, I think Keon Coleman is a better receiver prospect than his tape would let on, simply just because of how he was utilized at Florida State and some poor quarterback play as well. Mm-hmm. And the downside to him, he's a fluid, smooth athlete. He's not an explosive athlete. He's not an Xavier Legette. He's not going to beat people down the field with speed, but I think he can develop be that technician of a wide receiver that you want at the X spot in your offense. So that to me, also Chiefs fans will be very happy to hear this in this mock. We did take this into account. He had a very low drop rate of all of his passes. He has very consistent hands. And I think he has Mike Evans potential in my eyes. So, and that's high praise, because he's a Hall of Fame receiver.
Oh yeah. That's a high ceiling, so to say.
Yeah.
So let's move on though to their second pick here. So one of the things we mentioned too was obviously Chris Jones and re-signing the defensive side of the ball as well. I think still just beefing up that defensive interior on top of that in case something happens to Chris Jones, or he is just getting older in general. So you kind of want to develop his replacements, and so I would say the edge rushers. I think guys like George Karlaftis, and there's a bunch of other guys as well that had great seasons, and so I think the edge rushers they've developed there, and I think are going to do fine. And so I think developing that interior, keep putting that pressure on that defensive line. So they only have to rush 4 guys, or Steve Spagnuolo can do the fun things that he wants to do and confuse offenses. And so I really like this player, and he's starting to fall a little bit. I don't even think it's anything that has to do with him. I think just other guys are just rising.
Yeah, that's what I would say. Is I think this defensive line class has more of a sweet spot than like a true first rounder, and I think Byron Murphy and Jersey Newton have kind of started to fall maybe more into like the realistic range of Leonard Taylor as well. Just because I think these guys are all going to be second round picks, and well, not second round picks, but like late first to second round picks. Yeah. And I think Leonard Taylor's kind of in that back end of the top tier of defensive linemen. And like for the Chiefs specifically, I think this defense had done a great job, but I do think they could improve this run defense a little bit. I think this front was just more geared towards getting after the passer, and they have really good linebackers with Willie Gay and Nick Bolton. And so I think getting just another defensive tackle to kind of throw in that rotation in front of them will help with that run defense. And again, not to say that run defense was bad. I just think when you look at the weak spots of this defense, that is the weaker spot.
Yeah. So yeah, I completely understand. So let's wrap up here the third round. And so speaking of getting a little bit older and starting to develop some replacements as well, Travis Kelce's getting up there. And we were sitting there just trying to think of who would be a good pick here. What are some like the best player availables? And a guy like Cade Stover, he needs to work on his blocking capabilities. But he is, I would say, up there as one of the better receiving tight ends in this class. I think what makes Brock Bowers and Jatavian Sanders different is like they're 3-down tight ends. I would say, and they're great blockers, help out the offensive line. Cade Stover, I think, still needs to improve on that. But he also has a lot of good film as well from Ohio State. And I think you're going to put him in with the Patrick Mahomes-led offense. He is pretty shifty as well. I think he kind of reminds me maybe a little bit of Travis Kelce outside just the Ohio connection as well. But Ryan, what are some of the things that you like about Cade over here with this Kansas City Chiefs pick?
Yeah, a big catch radius. He's played in some big games for them. And to me, I think you hit the nail on the head. He's not a blocker. Jatavian Sanders has shown the willingness to be a blocker, whereas I feel like Cade Stover, he kind of puts his hands on guys and just hopes they don't go through him. And that to me is like the weak point here, but he's one of the best just pure receiving tight ends in this class. And I like his size. He boxes out defenders well. He's too quick to be really match up with linebackers, but he's too big to have a safety or somebody come down on him unless you have a Derwin James-esque guy. So that to me, I think he's going to be a little bit of a mismatch nightmare. And I think that investing in Travis Kelce's replacement a year or two before he leaves, the tight end position is one of the hardest positions to get rookie production out of. So going ahead and throwing this pick down now, I think will pay dividends in the future. So
yeah, I agree.
Let's move on to their day 3 picks, just to run through these guys really, really quickly. Julian Pearl, the offensive tackle, just adding some tackle depth there. To say it nicely, I think they overpaid for Jawan Taylor and what they got from him. Donovan Smith is going to be 31 or 32 going into this year. And so adding depth at that spot is going to be crucial there. Xavier Thomas, I want to say Joseph Osai, but I know that's not it. But the edge rusher that just went down in the AFC Championship game for the Kansas City Chiefs, whose name is escaping me.
Charles Omenihu.
They're both Texas guys. That's why I think it kept throwing me off. But getting a guy, Xavier Thomas, that can come in and be a rotational guy there. And then Dylan Johnson adding some running back depth. Clyde Edwards-Helaire is a free agent, and I highly doubt that they will re-sign him with Isaiah Pacheco kind of taking over the lead back role. So I just think it's going to be a really interesting offseason and draft for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, too, I think they're pretty good on cap space as well. So that's why I think they can re-sign a lot of these guys. And so
they're about $50 million in cap.
Yeah. So I think now it's like $255 million, something like that's the cap space now. So
yeah,
I think there's going to be a lot of interesting things moving on. I think that they only have 6 picks, but where they're picking, especially in those first 3 picks, like there's going to be guys available that they can absolutely come in and utilize. So it's going to be it's crazy to think that they won the Super Bowl and next year they're going to be better than what they were this year.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think this year, I think you look at what teams were supposed to be. I think this was supposed to be the down year for Kansas City. And
It
honestly,
was.
for a large majority of it, it was. I mean, we both had serious questions about just how they would compete. And frankly, like if it, you look at their playoff run, they had the coldest game ever against Miami. They had a really close game against Buffalo, and then they had a really close game against Baltimore. Like they just barely eked out all of these games, and we didn't even talk about the Super Bowl. So that to me, I think just shows kind of the winning nature of this organization. I'll be really curious to see what they're able to do after they can invest $50 million into this franchise and really kind of buff it up for 2024. So
Yeah. Yep. I agree.
So yeah, but let's go ahead and wrap up this episode here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below on what you thought of this Kansas City Chiefs 7-round mock draft. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you do differently? And on that, we will see you guys next time.